Welcome to the second edition of the Friday Preview. My name is Ben Warren Smith, filling in for Ben Waterworth this afternoon as he takes a three-day weekend, maybe, I'm not too sure, but we're going to have a look at all the games from Division 4 right through to Division 1. And joining me to go through the games this weekend is the big man who milks cows for a living. It's a good afternoon to you, Peter Baird.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Ben Warren Smith. A bit of a rainy Friday afternoon out there, but I'm looking forward to going through all these games here, starting with the games in Division 4.
Looking forward to all the games in Division 4 as they reach round 5 tomorrow afternoon. The Basin at Batterham Reserve back home this week, taking on Surrey Park.
Yeah, a big win from the Basin last week to the tune of 104 points. The Basin, they're a quality unit. They really got the points over the Eastern Lions last week, put them to the sword against the Surrey Park team that were close but no cigar. They really matched it with Park Orchards. Unfortunately, weren't able to bring up their first win in 55 encounters, and I think the Basin are going to send them to 56 straight. The Basin should win this one and win it quite comfortably. They've had a couple of really good goal kickers in Andy Coltrera and Matty Smith, both with 15 of the year. The Basin for mine, BWS.
Already sit on a percentage of 215%, the Basin. Expect that to grow tomorrow afternoon as we look to our second game. It's the media team's radio game, Peter Baird, out at Domini Reserve. It's Park Orchards taking on Forest Hill.
Yeah, how good is it going to be to get out to Domini Reserve, take the caravan out there? The first time we're going to have a look at the Sharks go round. This is a fantastic game out here. The Forest Hill side, they've been thereabouts. They're 2-2. Park Orchards are 2-1. They've had the bye already. They've had the week off. They really scrounged a hard-fought victory last week against Surrey Park. I think they can match it with Forest Hill. I'm going to tip the Sharks in an upset. I've just got a feeling that Park Orchards will be up and about at their home ground at Domini Reserve. They won out there in round 1. I think they can make it 2 from 2 out at Domini.
Pretty ordinary performance by Forest Hill against Sylvan last week. I expect them to bounce back tomorrow afternoon as we head to Ferntree Gully Reserve as Ferntree Gully take on Canterbury.
Yeah, this one's got upset written all over it, I think. I think Canterbury have got what it takes to upset Ferntree Gully. They're not the same side as we've seen over the last few years. Both these teams, interestingly enough, had the week off last week. So they didn't get the opportunity to go out and scout the opposition team and have a look at them. So tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be a ripper of a game there at Ferntree Gully Reserve. Ferntree Gully have been right on those top sides in Division 4 for the last couple of years. Canterbury have been building. They've probably had a disappointing year last year, but I think they can take it up. Simon Beardall's played all 3 games for Canterbury this year. He's kicked 8 goals, and with Brent Isles probably not playing the main role as we've seen over the past, I think they've got the firepower up forward to really match it with the Eagles. I'm going to tip Canterbury in an upset, BWS.
Well, we agree on that one, Peter Baird, because I smell an upset tomorrow afternoon as well. Kilsyth at Pinks Reserve welcome South Belgrave, who are in red-hot form.
Yeah, looking at the team, a couple of big inclusions this week for South Belgrave. Todd Burley makes his way back into the South Belgrave side after returning from Perth, where he's done a bit of work over there in the mines, joins back his South Belgrave teammates. He's going to be a rock, slipping back into fullback for the Saints. Alex Bacon's kicked 7 goals in the reserves, coming back from a hernia operation. Will he make it into the team, or will he be a last omission from the team? I don't think it's going to matter. South Belgrave have just got too much firepower across the board. They'll absolutely blow Nunawading off the park there at Pinks Reserve.
They're playing Kilsyth out at Pinks Reserve.
Kilsyth at Pinks Reserve.
But I do agree, South Belgrave to get the chocolates tomorrow afternoon. A win's going to come for Kilsyth, but I don't see it happening tomorrow. Sylvan welcome and Nunawading to Sylvan Recreation Reserve. They're in pretty good form, Sylvan.
They are. Ashford up front. He only kicked 2 goals last week, but 12 for the year. He's providing that focal point that they need. Their best players last week, Guglielmi was in there, Shaw, Tui and Whale. So they're up and about. We heard Chris Goodlett, his assistant coach actually on Akira EFL Sunday last week.
Sean Tui.
He really spoke about how this team have had a big pre-season. They want to take some big scalps. I reckon this week against Nunawading, they'll be primed, and I reckon they'll get the points. They're probably my certainty in Division 4 this week, the Sylvan Footy Club.
5 games on the card in Division 4 for round 5. The Eastern Lions have the bye this week. We'll be able to wrap up their game next Friday afternoon as we move on to Division 3, Peter Baird, and the first game is Ringwood versus North Ringwood.
Yeah, North Ringwood, they're the premier side in Division 3 this year. They really put Mitcham to the sword last week. They've had a real even spread of players. they've been able to match it with any side they've come up against over the past few years. Josh Barrett, he's been a real revelation for them up forward. He's kicked 10 goals for the year, but they've also got Van Noonan up there who's kicked 9. They're going to have too much firepower. I think they'll blow Ringwood away. Ringwood, they've been up and about for the last 2 weeks since the departure of Nick Tennant. I don't think they'll be able to match it with the Saints this week.
Games out at Jubilee Park, get down there. The Saints are my selection. Second game is at Chirnside Park, taking on Mitcham out at Kimberley Reserve. This is sure to be a really interesting affair tomorrow afternoon.
It will be. I don't think that Chirnside Park will have what it takes, though, to go with Mitcham. I've been a big fan of the Mitcham Footy Club. They went down to North Ringwood last week. They only went down to the tune of 6 goals, though. They've been thereabouts. They're probably in that next tier behind North Ringwood and Boroondara this year. Chirnside Park, they're riding the roller coaster. They started off the year with a couple of good wins. They've lost a few on the trot now. They weren't able to match it with One Turnout South out at their home ground. I don't think they're going to be able to contain Mitcham. Although the game's at Kimberley Reserve, I'm going to tip Mitcham in this one, Ben.
Interesting start by Chirnside Park. They won their first couple of games. They've lost their last 2. I expect them to return to the winners list tomorrow. Mitcham only kicked 5 goals last week. Chirnside Park have kicked the bigger score for the year, and I expect them to get back on the winners list tomorrow afternoon. Down at Templestowe Reserve tomorrow, though, the Whitehorse Pioneers, coming off a great win last week, they head down to Templestowe, who also got a good win against Warrandyte.
They did. Johnson coming into the side, kicking 8 goals for the Pioneers. That was the impetus they needed last week to get them up and over the line against Coldstream. I'm not too sure how they're going to go against Templestowe, though. The bigger bodies are those Templestowe midfielders. Guys like the Bains, McGarmez, Resenless, through that midfield might have a bit too much strength on the ball for the Whitehorse Pioneers forwards. Paul Eccles, he was fantastic last week, kicked 7 goals to get Templestowe up and over the line. I think Templestowe will have too much for Whitehorse to deal with. Unfortunately for the Pioneers, they won't be able to make it 2 in a row.
Templestowe too strong at home for mine. Boroondara take on Coldstream out at Tormore Reserve. 2 weeks in a row out at Tormore for the Hawks. Can they do it again?
I think they can, and I think they'll do it quite convincingly. Coldstream were disappointing last week. They're a team that they're so hard to predict what they're going to do. They've got the ability to really take it up to a side like Boroondara, but then, as we saw last week, can drop games that everybody expects them to win when they went down to Whitehorse Pioneers. I think Boroondara, though, them for mine, they're a good thing this week. I'm tipping Boroondara and quite comfortably.
Boroondara still proving they are a very good thing in Division 3. Watch this space for the rest of the year. One Turnout South taking on Heathmont. Doesn't this game look interesting?
It certainly does. Darren Sheen held goalless last week as the Jets went down to Boroondara. He should be looking to bounce back this week. One Turnout South, though, they lost their first 2 games. They've bounced back with 2. Matty Clark's got this team up and about. I think One Turnout South are a finals team in Division 3. They've got a good young spread of players. Tim Lee, we heard Matty Clark talk about, a young guy that's come into the side, named in their best again last week. Sam Bates, a veteran of the One Turnout South Footy Club. He's doing really well there as well. One Turnout South for mine. They'll bring the Heathmont Jets a little bit down to earth. They'll ground the Jets, so to speak, this week, because I think that One Turnout South Devils will get a win.
The Jets started the season off in emphatic form with 3 wins. They'll be shattered with their performance last week, only 3 goals. I've just got a hunch they're going to come out tomorrow. They realise it's not as easy as what they think after the first 3 rounds. They'll be snapped back into reality, the Jets to get home tomorrow afternoon. The last game in Division 3, Peter Baird, is the Glen Waverley Hawks taking on Warrandyte, who is a side who has been so close yet so far.
They have. They've been close in games, but they just seem to fall over at that last obstacle, unable to get a win in any of the games. The Glen Waverley Hawks, they've been in every game they've played this year. They've been super competitive. Matty Carnelli leading the way for them with 17 goals. He's really providing a real handful for the Division 3 backman, as he did for the times in Division 4 last year where he kicked a century of goals. The Glen Waverley Hawks, they should win this one out at Capital Reserve. Warrandyte, I don't like to say it, Blood supporters, but they'll be 9-5, and Glen Waverley Hawks should be sitting back within the top 5 of Division 3 come 5 p.m. tomorrow night.
I like the Glen Waverley Hawks as well. Let's look at Division 2 for Round 5 this week, starting with Bayswater taking on Roble out at Bayswater Oval. Both sides coming off a win last week, Pete.
Yeah, we have to go back to 2003, the year that the Hawks went undefeated, to find the last time the Hawks started a year 5-0. It hasn't happened for a long time. That's what they're going for this week. They've won 4 on the trot. A win against Bayswater out at Bayswater Oval will give them that start. I don't think they're going to have it all their own way, though. Bayswater and Roble, they're 2 teams that have a history, a fierce rivalry between these 2 clubs. Roble, I think they've got the forward setup that really troubles Bayswater. Bayswater lack a little bit of height. I'm not sure who Brent Jane will go to. There's 3 big forwards playing there for Roble tomorrow afternoon. We've got James Powell, Michael Bussey and Mitch Garner. Damien Garner's been in the best each week for Roble, playing as that sort of tall midfielder role. I think Roble will have too much height for Bayswater. And the other player we all love to watch, Nathan Hicks, he's been fantastic. Led the way for Roble's goal kicking. He's kicked 16 goals in the first 4 games. That small forward at the feet of those 3 talls. I'm going to tip Roble on this one, Ben. Best start to a season since 2003.
The game's been played at the home of the Eastern Football League at Bayswater Oval. I too like Roble. Their form has been very strong in the first 4 matches of the year and expect them to go on their merry way tomorrow afternoon. Donvale in a bit of a local derby take on Doncaster East at Donvale Reserve tomorrow, Pete. This is going to be a close one.
I reckon it will be too. Donvale have been super impressive. They've matched it with some of the top sides in Division 2 this year. They sit 2-2 on the ladder as Doncaster East are 1-3. I reckon Doncaster East, though, have got the sort of mix and the setups that might trouble Donvale out there. We've seen the big forwards for Donvale cause some headaches. We've seen the Chief Ben Tawney up there. We've seen Jack Purcell kicking goals. But I don't know, I've just got a feeling about Doncaster East. I'm not going to go with it, though, Ben. I'm going to tip Donvale still to win, only because it's a Donvale Reserve. They matched it with the Mustangs last week, and they're going to take a lot of beating out there at home.
Doncaster East really struggling to put 4 quarters on the board, and I hope that they can do it tomorrow afternoon, because I am going to back them away from home at Donvale Reserve, the Lions, to get their second win for the year, Pete. The next game we're going to have a look at in Division 2 is Murrelbach taking on Upper Ferntree Gully, 2 sides that have started the season in great form. Murrelbach unbeaten, but Upper Ferntree Gully are just behind.
They certainly are. Murrelbach, as you said, 4-0. The Upper Ferntree Gully side, they've only dropped the 1 game so far. They're 3-1, still sitting inside that top 4 in Division 2. What a matchup this one is. Real mouth-watering contest. I've been all over Murrelbach in the pre-season. They've given me no reason to change that. Some of their better players are week in, week out. Martin, we heard Scotty Demetriou talk about him on Wednesday night when we had chatted a little bit off air about what's been the difference with the Murrelbach side this year. James Charge has been fantastic. A big mobile ruckman that drifts forward. Mike Smith, another fantastic player. Throw in Evan Hocking, best on ground last week, returning to the fold at Heights Reserve. I think Murrelbach, they're going to be too strong. Upper Ferntree Gully, they'll be gallant. They won't go down without a fight, but I think Murrelbach will win this one.
Maybe he was feeding you a whole lot of trollope, Pete. We'll never know, Scotty. At Murrelbach, they have to win this game at home out of Heights Reserve. As you said, they started 4-0, and when they've been met in games in the previous weeks, they've risen to the challenge and gone on with it, so you can't tip against the Mustangs tomorrow.
You certainly can't. I'm going for Murrelbach, as I said.
Montrose take on Waverly Blues out at Montrose Reserve tomorrow. Montrose returning to the winners list last week, Pete.
Yeah, they certainly did. They played like a team that really needed to get back onto that winners list after they dropped that radio game out at Montrose Reserve to Roble. The Waverly Blues, I'm not sure they'll be able to match the firepower of Montrose. They've got 2 forwards up there. They've added Adam Cook to the fold for the Demons this year. He's kicked 13 goals. Alongside Billy Schilling, he's kicked 10. Montrose forward line, that looks very, very potent. Throwing guys like Dean Stephen rotating through that midfield. They're going to get plenty of supply down there to those big 2 tall forwards. Montrose for mine. They should win, and they'll win well.
I agree. Montrose to win tomorrow. Doncaster take on Mulgrave out at Shram's Reserve. Doncaster pretty close last week, just couldn't get over the line, whereas Mulgrave have been close in a couple of games this season, but just can't get that first win. Who wins this game tomorrow?
I'm not sure how you get a read on either of these 2 sides. Doncaster have taken it up and matched it with some of the best. They've still only got the 1 win from the year from their first 4 games, though. Mulgrave coming back from Division 1, they're yet to open their account in Division 2. People that went out and saw Mulgrave in round 1 when they played Roble have told me that Mulgrave are a better side than to be 0-4 at the start of the year. I'm going to tip Mulgrave to cause a bit of an upset over Doncaster. Both these teams should be 1-4 tomorrow afternoon.
I too like Mulgrave tomorrow, Pete. It's one of these games that you could flip a coin on it. Doncaster, always a tough side to beat at home, but you just know Mulgrave are itching towards that next victory, and I hope they get their first for season 2012 tomorrow afternoon. Round 4 in Division 1 this weekend, and it's East Burwood taking on Croydon out at East Burwood Reserve. The Rams looking to get their 3rd win for the year. Haven't they started well?
They did. They surprised me last week. I tipped Vermont to get over the line against East Burwood. I know you were a big fan of East Burwood last week, BWS. But they've just got a great mix at the moment. Anthony Mariani, he kicked 4 goals last week for him up forward, as did Henshaw. They've just got a really superb mix. Throw in Marcus Carroll. He's been super sensational. Probably one of the leading midfielders going around in Division 1 at the moment. Alec Fiore, he's been good for him as well. I don't know. East Burwood, they surprised me. Croydon, though, they've let through more points than any other team in Division 1. They need to stop the landslide of points being kicked against them if they're going to have any hope in this game. I can't see it happening tomorrow afternoon, BWS. East Burwood will win.
I do like East Burwood today, Pete. Their form at home has been very strong for the year, only narrowly going down to Scoresby there, I think, in round 1. So expect them to get home tomorrow against Croydon, who have been struggling. The second game in Division 1 we're going to have a look at, Pete, is Lilydale taking on Ballwin out at LSO, the Lilydale Sports Oval. The Lilydale boys return home against a side who really took it up to Norwood last week and ran away with it.
They certainly did. Ballwin, they were great last week. We saw guys like Rennie Gilchrist and Charlie Hendry. They were in, they were under. They got so much ball air out for the middle. Stevie Kenner got better the longer the game went. Lilydale, though, they just weren't able to get over the line against South Croydon last week. A bit of a concern for them is they probably haven't got the return out of Nathan O'Keefe that we saw last year when they played in Division 2. He needs to lift if Lilydale are going to get up over the line against Ballwin. I'm not so sure it's going to happen this week. The smaller confiles of the LSO might suit Ballwin. We've heard Daniel Donati say that he's trying to get his team to adjust to playing on the smaller ground there out at Ballwin Park. The LSO is not much difference in size. I'm going to tip Ballwin. Ed McCutcheon was fantastic last week. That extra forward that stepped up when he needed to, provided a target up there, they're going to have too much. They'll get over the line against Lilydale.
If Chris Shaw and Ash Davies and the likes of Marcus Hodges can really deliver on Saturday afternoon, who knows, the home side may be able to get up in this one. But Ballwin, if we're going on form, and that's the only thing we can on, I have to tip them and the Tigers will get up. The third game we're going to look at in Division 1 is the Blackburn taking on Noble Park. Blackburn notching their first win for the year in emphatic style last week, while Noble Park have had a fortnight to forget.
They certainly have. Noble Park don't lose consecutive games in the Eastern Football League. Well, not in recent history anyway, BWS. If we want to go back to the last time they lost 2 in a row, it was actually in 2010, round 7 and 8. They then backed that up to win 2 flags in a row. For them to lose this week against Blackburn, that would send them 0-3 from the last 3 rounds. I'm not so sure that Noble Park will do that. The last time that happened, 2001, for the Bulls to lose 3 in a row in the EFL. It's not going to happen this week. The big difference about Noble Park, though, this year and over the last 2 years, they've averaged 128 points per game. This year in the EFL, only 75 points per game. It's a big drop. It's 8 goals difference, BWS, than what the Noble Park side aren't kicking. Are they rebuilding? I'm not so sure. Kev Wright said that last weekend that the Noble Park was in a bit of a rebuilding phase. Blackburn got a bit of its mojo back against Croydon. I'm not so sure who to pick in this one anymore. I'm going to go Noble Park. I just can't see them losing 3 in a row.
They kicked 20 goals last week, the Burners, and they return home to Moreton Park again against a side who is not in good form. I expect this one to go right down to the wire. It's just the fact of Noble Park losing 3 in a row. It just doesn't sit right with me. I don't think it'll happen tomorrow. It very well may, but Noble Park to get the points. Norwood take on Knox tomorrow at Mullen Reserve in what is nearly match of the round in Division 1 tomorrow, Pete.
This is going to be a ripper contest. We had a good look at Norwood last week. We saw them travel out to Ballwin Park to take on the Ballwin Tigers out there. But Knox, they've done everything right. What a scrappy contest they had with Goresby last weekend, though. We only saw a minimal number of goals let through. Norwood, though, they were impressive. They matched it with Ballwin. They were in the game right up to about the 20-minute mark of the last quarter. I really like Knox, though. I think they've done everything right. I think they've got a good mix up forward. Ryan Jeffries kicking goals for them. I'm going to tip Knox, though. This is going to be a scrappy contest. Both these two teams are very honest. They go in after the hard ball. We saw that with Norwood last week. Guys like Clayton go in for them. They're a good side. For mine, Knox, though, this weekend.
I don't know why, but I'm going to tip Knox as well. Norwood in great form to start the year off, I suppose. Just a little bit of a let-off next week, but they are back at home, and it's sure to be a terrific contest. The next game we're going to look at in Division 1 is Scoresby versus East Ringwood. Scoresby on top of the ladder with 3 wins. East Ringwood notching their first last week in great style against the Bulls. This is going to be a close game, Pete.
It certainly is. How do you define Scoresby, though? They sit on top of the ladder undefeated, but they've kicked the second fewest number of points of any team in Division 1. They've only kicked 222 points in their 3 games. Only one team's kicked less than that. That's Knox sitting in 4th spot. Scoresby, they've been very miserly this year. They've only let through 181 points, which is the second fewest number of points behind Knox as well. East Ringwood, though, they took all before them when they took on the Bulls last week. I had a chat to Les Ferguson on Wednesday night, one of the faithful down there at the East Ringwood Footy Club. He says he wants a lift out of Brendan Hollowick. He said he's the key for them to get over Scoresby this weekend. He was up and about, Les, when he's talked about this game. He fancies East Ringwood. I can't see it. Sorry, Les, I'm tipping Scoresby.
I agree with you, Pete. I like Scoresby this afternoon. It was a low-scoring affair last week against Knox. They return to Scoresby Recreation Reserve tomorrow. They'll be looking for win 4, and they'll be looking for a big score after only getting 40 points on the board last week.
They certainly will. Let's
have a look at the last game in Division 1 tomorrow afternoon. It is Vermont at home taking on South Croydon, who got a great win last week.
They did. They got over Lilydale in a real honest contest. Two teams that give their all. South Croydon, they're one of those sides. They just, you know what you're going to get with them week in, week out. James Crowell's been fantastic for them up forward. We saw him best on ground in the Arndale Cup game in round 1, voted by the EFL media team. He was great for them last week. He's been in amongst their goal kickers with 4 last week. Vermont, though, I don't know how you read them. Their leading goal kicker so far is Nathan Henley. They've had a lot of great players come to the club. They've got Jared Dalton, guys like Dean Kelly through that midfield. Millhouse, Mendez, Mullet. Those guys have been around the club for a long time. On paper, it's all Vermont. But I don't know. South Croydon, I just got a feeling that they're more honest at the moment. They're more the champion team rather than the team of champions. Sorry to label that to the Eagles, but when you're sitting in second bottom position on the ladder with a percentage of 67, I have to go with South Croydon this week.
I expected it to take a little while for the Vermont team to gel together as one that's nearly played a month of football now. I expect them back on the winners list tomorrow. The Dogs are a different unit at home, and it's been proven over the last couple of years. They need to take that next step and win these away games. It's a big task for them tomorrow afternoon. I just don't think they can get the job done. The Eagles to get their second win of the year. So we've been through all the games, Peter Baird. Division 4, 3, 2 and 1. Some terrific games happening tomorrow afternoon as you go local for your football. You wouldn't want to have it any other way, would you?
Can't wait to get out to one of these EFL games tomorrow afternoon. Have a look at the best local footy you'll find anywhere, not only in Melbourne but in Australia.
Tune in tomorrow from 1 o'clock on 98.1 at Radio Eastern for the big Division 4 clash between Park Orchards and Forest Hill. The EFL media team will be out there. We'll be live video streaming the game through YouTube and the EFL website. There's no better way to go local for your football, whether it be at the ground or in the comfort of your own home. This has been the second edition of the Friday preview for season 2012. Thank you to my wingman this afternoon, Peter Baird, for your thesis analysis.
Been my pleasure, BWS. Always just whets the appetite to look at these games we're going to have tomorrow afternoon. I can't wait to get out to the footy. And don't forget, you can get all the results, interviews with the winning coaches as you tune into 98.1 Radio Eastern between 10 and 12 Sunday morning for the Kira EFL Sunday program.
The Friday preview will be back next week with Ben Waterworth returning with a frosty Peter Baird. And as a wise man once said, stick a fork in us, we're done.